this Thursday, August 12th, 2021 Giles County Public School Board meeting. Everybody would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. That motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Next, we have public comments. Since we have one person here, took the time to be here in person.
Good morning.
Sarah Thwaites has a 3-minute time limit, but I don't know that
I
that's.
don't think I'll take that long.
All right.
But
Thank you for being here,
and good
taking the
morning.
time to come.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask why the meetings are primarily held at 7:30 a.m. It appears this year from looking back at the minutes, 3:30 and 4:30, which are difficult times for the majority of parents and guardians to be able to have the opportunity to attend. I know that, we can send input and comments in via email and electronically, but being able to actually be involved is difficult for the majority of parents. So has there been any discussions about having meetings in the evenings?
I'll take that one. Everybody's okay? So Sarah, we've tried a couple of different ways. The majority of the reason for the 4:30, we have what do we call that, Dr.?
Educational presentation.
An educational presentation, which allows the teachers and students to come each meeting and show us something that's really interesting, something they're proud of, and they get to come up and show us whether they're building something in the class or whether there's something neat that the teachers are doing to keep the kids engaged. They do a PowerPoint presentation. Sometimes they hand out stuff to us as board members. And so it's difficult for them to have to leave the school building, go home, wait for a couple hours, and then figure out how to get a ride back to the meetings. We tried to have them at 6 o'clock for a while, and it was crickets out there. Nobody showed up. Obviously that changes as we get to times like this, when there's a lot more that the public would like to be involved with. But long and short, the 4:30 is mainly for the kids and the teachers that would be part of that. Because quite frankly, they're usually the only ones that come. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but that.
It does,
And the 7:30, like, you see all that stuff out there. The first meeting of the year is traditionally the new teachers are welcome there and introduced. So they've got a whole day of orientation and various things planned. So that's kind of why we're at this odd time. And then the last meeting of the year has traditionally been the last day, June 30th at 7:30.
right.
And those, we usually do the retirees that.
June 30th, that's usually our closeout meeting, so that's why it's done in the morning, so we can get any last minute information to you before we try to close out the year.
I mean, we have the ability, we talk about that every year, actually, to see. Sometimes we get more concern from the public that 4:30 doesn't give them a chance to come out, so.
I do understand from the perspective of, you're not always going to have people show up at a meeting regardless of what time it is. And I do understand that is the best time for students and teachers. I would just ask maybe that the board consider varying some times of the meetings to allow for an opportunity in the evening for parents and guardians to be able to attend. Now, I appreciate your explanation on that. Secondly, I just wanted to, I'm certain you're going to discuss your mask policy. I know you did discuss that and institute a policy at the mask meeting, and since then, the governor has threatened legal action, and I'm wondering how your mask policy is going to change based upon comments from the governor to school boards. And I would just say that I would encourage the board to continue to make decisions based upon what's best for the students, not upon fear, pressure of prosecution, or inaccurate information, and allow the parents and guardians to have the freedom to act in the best interest of our children when it comes to masks and many other issues that impact our kids' lives.
We definitely will be discussing that here shortly.
And I certainly don't expect you to. Lastly, just some statistics that I looked at yesterday. So these were the most recent ones that I could get. And I just wanted to note, obviously we all want a consistently safe environment conducive to learning, growing, and thriving for our kids. And the disruption from the mandates, policies, and COVID in general has obviously impacted all of us, particularly our children, mentally, emotionally, physically, and scholastically. And any decisions that this board makes, I hope that we will continue to think about the total impact to our children. And just to conclude, referring to the CDC's most recent data, children 0 to 17 years of age have a 1/11 of 1% or 0.0009% chance of dying from COVID. And I'm not saying that any death from COVID is good by any means. However, I think it is important to look at the data when we frequently talk about that and make decisions based upon that. Out of 37,055,916 people that had COVID in the United States, 354 deaths are reported in ages 0 to 17. In 2018 and 19, for that same age range, 477 deaths are reported from influenza. Flu season did not blow apart our kids' lives. I do recognize that COVID is something that we were not dealing with before. However, we do have a lot more facts and information now, and I think it's important to make the decisions based upon the facts and the data instead of pressure and threats, whether it be from our government and the administration or even from parents and guardians. And I would just conclude, again, by concluding that I thank you for serving. I thank the administration and also our teachers, faculty, and staff for all that they have done. I can't imagine everything that went into getting our kids back into school and giving them the opportunity to have face-to-face instruction again. So thank you.
You, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, I got a couple more public comments sent in. Due to the early nature of this meeting, I think it'd be all right if I read these. They're not extremely lengthy. So this public comment is from Mary Crockett. My name is Marie Crockett. I have 2 grandchildren in Mason. Aiden had an overnight voice change, and we have been 2 months trying to find out what caused it, for it is not puberty. The doctor he sees made a comment, "Don't get me started on the mask for kids," and stated he does not think the kids should be masked. And Lexi has facial problems that is just about cleared up. The governor has not mandated masks and says to go with the CDC. CDC says if in a high transmission area, then masks are recommended and they can't or won't give evidence of spreading among children. It doesn't seem like anyone is paying attention to the effects that these masks are having on our children. From what I can find online, Giles County had a county of about 1,400 cases in all of last year. Please read this at the board meeting tomorrow, and I beg that the board will not mandate the masks. If spreading starts, then masks can be always be used. Have the adults wear the masks to protect themselves if they have not been vaccinated. Thank you, Marie Crocker. Next is from Jim Mullins of Eggleston. As a father of 2 Eastern Elementary School students, I'm writing to strongly urge you to abandon any mask mandates under consideration for the coming school year. In the past, concerns for both faculty and the elderly or otherwise at-risk members of the same household as students were raised. At this point, anyone who wishes to be vaccinated has been. Statistically speaking, young students are not in grave danger from this virus and face much greater peril from traveling to school in automobiles and accidental drowning. The mask requirement for small children appears to be nothing more than misguided security theater, and I believe they are doing my children more harm than good, especially in warmer weather and during non-sedentary activities. Health decisions for minor children should be made by the parents of those children, and those who wish to remain masked for the rest of their lives are certainly welcome to do so. I think enhanced cleaning protocols and temperature checks are a much more sensible route for the schools to employ. Sincerely, Jim Mullins. That's all the public comments we have today, and again, the board urges the community to either send those in to Miss Amanda or take the time to come to these meetings. We certainly work for you and the folks that voted us in, so we want to hear from you. Next on the agenda are consent items that will be approved by single board vote, which include meeting minutes from June 17th, June 30th, June 14th, and also financial data and surplus. I get a motion to approve those consent items.
I'll make a motion to approve consent items.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Next on the agenda, we have the superintendent's report.
Thanks, sir. I have several items, personnel items I need to ask the board to approve at this time. I need to ask the board to confirm the following resignations. Amy Walters, Mason McClarity, speech language pathologist, effective August 13th. Jonathan Spade, bus driver, effective June 30th. Heather Albert, Nares Elementary Middle School teacher assistant, effective July 12th. And Tabitha Young, Giles High School business teacher, effective August 20th.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to confirm the following retirements. Todd Luss, Nares High School assistant principal, effective August 1st. And Brenda Smith, Nares High School secretary, effective October 1st.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Probably this is October 1st. I'm just curious the timeline.
Thinking of trying to help also get them prepared for the transition.
Understood. All those in favor?
Do I have to raise my hand? Thank them for their service. Did a great job.
Need to ask the board to confirm the following employment. Ethan Lowe, Nares Elementary Middle School special ed teacher for and these are all for the 21-22 school year. Transfer of Heather Lucas from Giles High School special ed to English. Renee Law, Eastern Elementary Middle School teacher assistant. Scotty Potter, itinerant assistant principal. Jessica Averill, Mason McClarity, elementary teacher. Amber Skidmore, Eastern Elementary Middle School teacher assistant. Christina Collins, Eastern Elementary Middle School teacher assistant. Laura Helvey, itinerant assistant principal. Eric Widows, Giles High School assistant principal. Tristan Marshall, Giles High School special ed teacher. Barbara Vencil, Mason McClarity teacher assistant. Linda Vaught, Mason McClarity teacher assistant. Transfer of Kevin Akers from ARDT position to secondary math at Giles High School. Transfer of Melissa Lively from Giles High School guidance to the elementary itinerant guidance counselor position. Rachel Graham, Mason McClarty preschool teacher. Transfer of Faith Martin to Narrows Elementary Middle School as a teacher assistant from Eastern Elementary. Tina Cumby, Narrows Elementary Middle School bus driver. Doris Suttle, Narrows Elementary Middle School teacher assistant. And Kim Nichols, Narrows Elementary Middle School special education teacher.
I move that we approve the employment as the superintendent. Right off there.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? It's good to hear less than lengthy. Yes.
I've got hopefully another one to add to it when we go through here, my addendum.
All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to confirm the following volunteer agreements. Mandy Havens, Giles High School varsity girls basketball assistant, and Kelsey Lucas, Giles High School volleyball assistant.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve the following athletic coaching contracts. Giles High School, Ashley Snyder, Giles High School Middle School volleyball head coach. Jeff Williams, varsity head football coach. Steve Wilson, Giles High School varsity assistant. Austin Cooper, JV assistant football. Mandy Havens, varsity head volleyball. Steve Wilson, varsity head baseball. Shane Dalton, assistant track. Derek Snyder, varsity head softball. And Jimmy McCroskey, JV head baseball. That's for Giles High School. For Narrows High School, I need to ask the board to approve Kristen Williams, Narrows High School head middle school volleyball coach.
Make that motion to approve contract.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
And I'll have additional ones, again, on my addendum that came in after.
All those in favor?
As was shared already, we'll have new staff members coming about 8:30, so we'll do an introduction of board members to new staff and new staff to board members here in a little while. So I'm gonna continue with the rest of the information that I have. You were provided, again, as you know, periodically we receive updated policies and/or regulations from VSBA or that we need to change in the policy manual or update in our policy manual. You received 2 of those policies. So at this time, I need to ask the board to approve those revisions to the policies at this time.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
And I don't know if you want me to continue or if y'all have comments that you all want to make or you want me to keep on going with stuff that we need to get approved and.
Need to keep rolling.
Okay, I just didn't want to. Have a couple of other items. Need to ask the board to approve. Need to ask the board to approve the following resignations. Donna Brewster, Narrows High School teacher assistant, effective August 1st. Sarah Brackenrich, speech language pathologist, effective July 30th. Christy Dobbins, Narrows Elementary Middle School special education teacher, effective July 31st. Tammy McGuire, Eastern Elementary Middle School teacher assistant, effective August 11th. And Manny Lopez, Narrows High School teacher assistant, effective August 11th.
Make a motion to approve the resignations.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve the following employment. Mary Miller, Giles High School, it'll be, the home school will be Giles High School, she'll be in the ARDT position.
make that motion.
No second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Volunteer agreements, I need to ask the board to approve. Tanya Vaden, Giles High School volleyball. Jackie Evans, Giles High School assistant varsity football.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Need to ask the board to approve the following athletic contracts. Matt Burns, Giles High School JV football assistant. Jason Breeding, Giles High School varsity football assistant. Ricky Cook, Giles High School varsity football assistant. Matt Burns, multiple activities. Scott Moy, Giles High School head golf. Daryl Lucas, JV girls head basketball. Sam Wright, Giles High School JV assistant football. Sam Wright, Giles High School varsity track head coach. Tim Muncie, Giles High School head JV football. Todd Kellison, Giles High School middle girls basketball. Kelly Lowe, Narrows High School head varsity football. Bradley Sutphin, Narrows High School offensive coordinator of varsity football. Ben Woodyard, Narrows High School assistant varsity football. Clyde Turner, Narrows High School assistant varsity football. Ethan Lowe, Narrows High School assistant JV football. Dakota Schrader, Narrows High School assistant varsity football. Sherry Suttle, Narrows High School head varsity volleyball. Tori Bowman, Narrows High School assistant varsity volleyball, and Camry McCroskey, Narrows High School head JV volleyball.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
You received a copy of the audit from the auditor that we got for the 2021 school year. It's the year ended June 30th, 2021. You also have the letter from the auditor that includes, that's the letter for those that are in charge of governance. That's at the beginning, and you also have a copy of any of the findings that the auditor had. Those findings have been shared with each of the principals at the schools, and they have been asked to review them with their bookkeepers and come up with any plans to address those areas by, I think I gave them the date of September 10th to make sure that those were addressed. But overall, from the auditor, the comments were minor, and those are typical issues that they encounter. And he was glad to say that overall everything went well. So just wanted to make sure you got a copy and you could have that for your review. Jump right into it. The return to learn plan and the opening school plan, might as well go ahead and talk about that as well. Last Tuesday, we did have a work session where we talked about what we anticipated our plan being. Following that, however, on Thursday of last week, Governor held a press conference. As part of that press conference, there was a Senate Bill 1303 that was referenced that requires school divisions to offer in-person instruction and adhere to the maximum extent possible the current mitigation measures provided by CDC. Also on August 5th, the CDC updated their guidance, which recommended universal masking for all students, staff, teachers, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. And they put that update out because of the increased spread of the highly contagious Delta variant of COVID-19. So based on that new information from that press conference, from DOE, from CDC, and from other correspondence that I have received, you have an updated draft of the proposed opening school plan that I would recommend to the board and we need to have conversation about it, I know, that we would open under the requirement would be phase 2 and would require masking while inside in facility for all students and staff. And that's again to meet the requirements of the law and other correspondence that we receive. And everybody should have a copy. You all have a copy.
I'm gonna make a motion, Dr. Gass, that we accept the plan that you drafted with an amendment to phase 2 to allow for all students and vaccinated staff to have a medical or religious exemption to the masking requirement that does not need to be supported by documentation.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Like that motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Thank you, Jason, for that, but at this time, I'm going to support the phase 1. I don't think there's any evidence that mask protects children, helps kids. We all heard get vaccinated, you don't have to wear your mask if you're vaccinated. If you come in contact with somebody that has COVID, you don't have to quarantine. And when's it gonna stop? You know, people want their kids, I have had numerous phone calls, texts, emails, and I'm not going to turn my back on my constituents who've asked for this. Me as a parent myself, I don't want my grandkids, my nieces, nephews wearing masks, and I think as a parent, I have that right. I think that we have to give parents a right to make their decision. I mean, COVID's not going away. It's here to stay. It's like the flu. So are we gonna continue to make our kids wear masks and live like this for the rest of our lives? No disrespect to anybody. I do not support anything but being in phase 1 and no mask. It's just my stand.
So wherever you want to say.
Well, I think from what I understand here, with what we're facing here, this gives that parent that right and to have their child not to wear a mask. And I think we're tiptoeing on this fine line here. And I may not be the one to explain this, but I can't, you know, we're facing a storm, and if we're going to, we need help facing this storm. We just can't ignore what it be, whether we're being threatened or whatever, and saying, okay, come at us, whatever you want to do. I think the parents got a right to say, hey, my child don't have to do it because of this, you know. We can be protected because of that.
In making this motion, I first want to say, I've got 3 kids that are going to be subject to that, and they're not going to, one of them, even if the vaccination status comes up, she's going to be under 5, and she's not going to be able to get that, so she's going to be facing wearing a mask the whole time.
Yeah.
I believe it's a parent's choice. I truly do. I felt comfortable. I thought we had adopted a plan at our last meeting that I felt good with, given the situation, to balance the concerns of everyone in the community the best that we could do, because we're not gonna satisfy everyone. And then the governor comes out shortly thereafter, 2 days after our meeting, and turns the world upside down by reading, and the way he reads it, and again, this is not legal opinion for the board or anybody out there, this is me as a lawyer reading it, he's read the statute correctly, but that statute wasn't intended to apply to masks. It was intended to get us around the 6 foot and 3 foot guidance that we're getting, so we get all our kids back in school. But because our governor doesn't want to come out and force us to have a mask mandate, because he doesn't want to hurt his party in this November's election. Again, this is one man's opinion.
It's fact, it's fact, you're good.
Okay, but he basically says you gotta follow it, and he's threatened us, and the state superintendent of education threatened us with legal action and loss of funding. And as much as I would love to be able to say we can ignore the law, I've taken an oath both professionally as a lawyer and an oath as a school board member to protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution and laws of both the United States of America and the Commonwealth of Virginia. Those are oaths I don't take lightly, and those are laws even though I don't like. So in my mind, we gotta figure a way around that, because as Mr. Wilbur said, there are gonna be some issues that it may be worth, that we're gonna have to stand up on in the future. It's coming. That storm is coming. You're exactly correct, Mr. Wilbur. And this school system has 2 resources. The only 2 resources we got are the time of our educators, including our central office staff, and our taxpayer dollars. And I'm worried if we take up a fight and stand up on this issue when there may be a compromise, which I hope this motion provides, we're gonna waste both of those in a manner on something that we're gonna lose on. And I'd like to say that time and those the other resources for something we really gotta fight. And in proposing this without documentation, in my mind, a medical reason could be the mental health of your student. It could be concerns about the safety and efficacy of the mask. There are numerous reasons, and again, religious. We're not here to be arbiters of that, but we are providing an exemption where a parent is going to be able to say, for this reason, I don't want them to wear a mask, and we're not going to be arbiters of it. We're not going to require documentation from a doctor or from your pastor or whoever. That's there. And I think that's the only way that we can navigate this without violating the state law and potentially losing funding.
So essentially, we've found a way to do both things. We're following the law, but we're also giving parents and vaccinated teachers a chance to do what they believe is right. And for all these last months, that's all everybody has been asked to do. We're simply making that now policy. These 2 public comments that I read, these are exactly what we're addressing. So Mr. Mullins says that it is dangerous for his grandkids and that it's misguided. There you go. He has his medical reasoning for not having his children wear it. Ms. Crockett says that there was a voice change that she thinks was related to the mask for one of her grandchildren. The other one is significant facial complexion issues, medical reasoning. So people need to understand what we're doing is not laying down. As a matter of fact, we're doing much more than that. We're using our brains to still get what we want, and they'll have to go back and shuffle and try to figure a way to get around that again, because Giles County they're full of pretty smart people.
My granddaughter starts kindergarten until they kick her out. For doing something bad. But, you know, I do not want her wearing a mask, but she's got breathing problems anyway. This mask will, I know it's gonna be horrible, so. And, you know, that's another thing. And it would be terrible for her to try to do that. I can't imagine. But, there's so many like that, you know, so I would argue the fact that, you know, she needs to be there wearing a mask all day long, and she can't breathe anyway, so, I think it's the fine line, and this is maybe a compromise, so, but that's my thoughts, but I agree, Melissa, I mean, I know what you're saying, but.
I mean, that's why there's 5 of us. Melissa's actually saying what everybody wants.
Well, yeah, I agree.
To say.
I fully agree, yes.
And I don't want the people that voted me in to think I'm laying down either. I'm simply trying to figure out a way to still get what we wanted to achieve. And when somebody audits, we're not on the front page of the paper saying, we're just blatantly saying we don't care about the CDC, our local health department, who has bent over backwards to help us. If we alienate them, and Dr. Bissell, we need help later, we still need them as an ally. So we've found a way to make it happen. There's gonna be a lot of questions. Again, that last part of the sentence says verification not required. So I don't know how else to explain it. People will kind of figure out what they need to do. Mr. Pennington, very stoic at the end of the table. Anything to add?
You know what my feeling is, I think I made that clear last Tuesday.
Okay.
I'm right there with Melissa.
As a board, is there any major concern about the amendment? I know generally what you believe. I think it's important that overall, we don't think that we're passing anything that is just absolutely negative for our kids and our students. And I don't want to put anybody in a bad spot, but we're gonna go to a vote, and that's where it'll happen.
I want to make sure that one, everybody understands, and two, I want to make and ask this question as well. What was stated was all students and vaccinated staff can share that they have a medical or religious exemption to this masking requirement
On phase 2.
on phase 2. Individuals do not need to provide verification from a doctor or priest or pastor for this exemption. How are the schools going to know?
I think we will have to require a parent.
I added another, I was gonna ask, can we add something there too? Because the schools are gonna need to know, they just can't assume, well, Johnny got off the bus, I'm assuming we need to know, the school principals and the school staff are gonna need to know.
And this is what I thought about, Dr. Arbiez. You go ahead.
Can we add, however, a note will need to be provided to school administration to document this request?
And let's make that even easier and make it across the board the same. If we provide a 1-page piece of paper that says, as a teacher or parent, we can make that first sentence say whatever it is, and have a box that you can check besides medical exemption, a box that you can check beside religious exemption, and that's it. It's clean, it's simple. You don't have to have a big paragraph and everybody has some kind of different soapbox. That's not what we're trying to do there. Let's make it, it's a 1-page that the staff can file, and it's A or B, or both. I mean, it doesn't matter. And you just check that box and it's done. And we can send that out with the packages. We can make it available online. And that way it's not 5 or 6 pages for one student, 6 for another. That's just a thought, to make it clean, simple. Somebody wants to come back and something terrible does happen, or help us if that does, and say, well, why wasn't this person wearing a mask? They go to the file, here's what they submitted, it says they have medical exemption.
But the only thing I wanna see though, that's in phase 2. Now, if we have to go to phase 3, that may not exist. I mean, if we go into where the numbers jump up extremely high, what happens?
We don't have it, it says required for all periods.
Yeah, phase three still basically says what we said last, I mean, does say what we said last week. Phase three would require masks for everybody, all students and all staff members within the school buildings. That's phase three.
I guess they need to be aware of that, you know.
At that point, we've reached, as a board, we've decided that we are right on the verge of having to send the kids home.
Right.
And we're gonna do whatever it
Right.
takes to hang on to whatever, to keep them in. And at that point, if they feel strong enough about it medically, they'll keep them home. Because their policy says you have to wear them in phase three. I mean, that's.
We also need to keep in mind that this is talking about being exempt from wearing the mask inside the school building. This is not, unless you correct me, this is not about getting exempted from wearing a mask while on the bus. The bus is public transportation, and public transportation requirement for masking is required, and we have to follow that.
We don't have any.
We don't have any leeway there.
No.
I just want to make sure.
Yep.
And I would like to explain too, with respect to vaccinated staff, just folks didn't watch the last time or don't understand, the Department of Labor and Industry in Virginia, which is equivalent to our state OSHA organization, has proposed new rules that would require all unvaccinated employees in any business in Virginia to wear a mask indoors. And if there's an outbreak, they can come in, look at it, and find significant fines even to localities and school systems. So that's why that was drafted originally that way, and that's, again, why we don't have much leeway on that end either.
And that's a great point, and I do want our teachers to understand that our hands are tied on that. Can you add a short paragraph to that front summary, Dr. Arbogast, that explains that DOLE that's something that we have no control of, and that's why our unvaccinated teachers are being required to wear masks under all of the phases. That just explains that we haven't let them out. We haven't treated them differently for any other reason than by law we can get fined if they don't wear them. But I don't like the bullying situation at all levels, government down through the universities and whatnot. We would certainly give them an opportunity. We tried to in the first draft until we were made aware that the DOLE, they can't even write that off. They can't say, we're not gonna hold you responsible. DOLE doesn't care. They come straight to us and fine. So we really don't have a way to help the unvaccinated teachers, and that's unfortunate, but I wish we had control, but we don't. So a paragraph up front that explains the DOLE, that's just my preference so people understand. If that's all right with the rest of the board, it's explaining that ties our hands for the unvaccinated teachers.
I'm totally fine with that.
Because there are gonna be questions, why, and so they'll try to help explain it. And if we want to explain, we can put that paragraph in our back pocket and read from it to somebody, ask us the question.
I'll work on that paragraph, and I'll communicate that to you all sometime today before we leave.
Is there any further discussion? I'm gonna roll call these board members because this is a pretty serious topic. Mr. Pennington, do you have anything else to add at this time?
I just don't agree with making the unvaccinated teachers wear them either, but that's here or there.
I don't need, it should be your choice if you want to get vaccinated. I mean, everybody's had the opportunity. If you want to do it, you can do it. If you don't, don't. For people, to choose what they want to do.
Mr. Whitman, you have anything else? Mr. Bucky,
No, sir.
chairs has nothing else.
And this is the way I assume that it reads based on the conversation or the motion. And do we need to amend it, the motion, because we're gonna have an attachment that needs to be signed? I'm just asking. But here's what I think you have said. All students and vaccinated staff can share that they have a medical or religious exemption to this masking requirement under phase 2. Individuals do not need to provide verification from a doctor or pastor's priest for this exemption. The attached document, attachment A, will need to be provided to school administration to document this request.
I think that's correct, and I will.
Before you do that, what about the Dolly piece? Does that mean?
Well, that's gonna be up in the
Okay.
explanation at the beginning, and that's not part of phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3. That's just the explanation piece of the plan. And I'll put that in, probably underneath the probably make it the 4th paragraph prior to where it says, what we're gonna enter under.
Can I ask a question? So how are you going to determine who's been vaccinated? Is this gonna be the honor system or what? I mean,
At this point, I think what we discussed before, we weren't going to require documentation before. Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah, we're not, I don't think any of us want to go down that, it's really a personal decision that we don't want to go down the road.
So you amending that?
I'll move to amend the motion, to correspond with the amendment, the requested amendments to the policy as stated by Dr. Arbogast.
I got a motion and a second. Again, any further discussion?
Call the question.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes 3-2.
I will communicate this plan to you all sometime this afternoon to make sure that we have captured everything that you requested before we communicate it out. We'd like to be able to start, we need to start getting this information out, so we'd like to share it as soon as possible.
If you don't have from all of us by this afternoon, you get it out.
'Cause I know we've got a meeting at 9:30, which I anticipate will last till about 11 or so. So my goal will be to come back here following that and get that information in there and get it to you sometime about 12:30 or so. And then we can start communicating it to schools.
I have a question. Maybe you all know this. Any other school systems around that area? We know what they're doing.
Yes.
WSLS has a list that they update usually twice a day that show thus far, based on what I have looked at yesterday, I think the only school system around after the governor spoke that has met since then, Craig County's the only one to completely reject the masking. Tazewell, Pulaski, all the other ones that have met. There's some that are saying they're not requiring it, but those decisions were made, and a lot of them are saying they're consulting with their council and that kind of stuff.
Franklin County adopted something very similar to what we just did. That was supported by their
Franklin County and Grayson County as well.
Pulaski is universal masking for everybody. Smith County is full masks. Washington County is universal indoor masking. Galaps is universal masking. Radford is universal masking. This is Region 7. Wise is universal masking with, they're voting on it tonight to determine. Dickinson County is universal masking. Lee County is universal masking. And I believe Bristol is also universal masking when they start on the 19th. I think Tazewell also, he recommended Monday evening to go universal masking as well on Monday evening. Now, I assume that their board approved that.
No, we're walking a fine line and providing a cutting edge.
Right.
Option.
There'll be one or the other.
Well, from a legal standpoint, one of the Craig County board members, because of the oath she took, resigned on the spot. Craig County voted to just flat out reject masking for the county. Dr. Harvey asked her, only 8:30 hour.
The only other thing I have is the update on the track. We've talked about last week. Wanted to let you know, I think I shared with you earlier this week, asphalt is completed on the track at Giles High School. Met with Bill Shelton, architect, yesterday out there or engineer to walk around, look at it. There's some things that he's gonna communicate back to ATC, Lincoln to see if that's the way it's supposed to be, or if there's some other things that need to be done to give a more finished product. But overall, the asphalt looks good. Maintenance crew did a excellent job, I thought, putting in the drain down the home side. They worked with Lincoln to be able to develop and put it in there so that they could put a lip in so that they could taper the asphalt down to that lip on the concrete, which will get the water into that drain and help it drain it off. So it's got to cure until August 23rd. So that's another week and a half. And I think that what the goal is Giles High School plays at home on the 27th. I believe that's that Friday against Blacksburg. Following that, they are away the next 2 weeks. So between the 28th and the September 17th football game that they have at home, they'll work on getting the rubberized surface on that track. Tennis courts, right now, what he's telling me is they're waiting on the materials. It's slow. They're slowly coming in. They're having a hard time getting the seal, the paint and the seal and that sort of stuff in. So they don't have a definite date yet. What they're looking at, what they're hoping is the end of August or early September.
We're gonna have everything in place for the home up there to keep people off the track.
The walkway is in. The posts are in that go beside that path. The posts are around the curve. I think it's just a matter of hopefully getting the fencing in, the fence material. But I've not talked to Bobby.
Something temporary.
We can do something temporarily if need be, but I'm hoping, and we can ask Bobby, just remind me, I'll ask Bobby where we are, if they've got the material, because he'll be at that meeting with us at 9:30 to see if that's here, because it just needs the fence to put in. And then there'll need to be a fence across from where it is currently right there near the concession stand and going up the side.
Grass looking good at both fields.
Grass is coming in. It's great. It looks nice.
All right.
I don't know I have anything else, unless you all have something.
Board comments. We got as many attendees as we've ever had right now. So. Good audience. If there's anything else going into the year, Phil, you got anything?
Just wanna thank all the retirees, best of luck in what they do in the future. I'd like to welcome all the new teachers. Thank Dr. Arbogast and Amanda and Ms. Mustang for all they've done. Thank all the teachers for during summer school. I think we had a successful summer school. Thank you for that, Christie and all the food program. Thank you for doing that. And just keep up the good work, I know you will. And like I said, we're entering uncharted waters again, so we don't have a good book to go by. Just keep up the good work and just thank everybody for what you've done.
Philip kind of touched on everything. I'm just looking forward to a great year this year. So I appreciate it. I know it's been tough trying to get teachers. I've looked all around. I mean, we're not the only ones dealing with it, so, you know, it's rough trying to staff your schools and do, but I appreciate those of you that's made a commitment to work with our kids. So here's to the new year.
Again, thanks for everybody for what they've done. I'm gonna get my little speech over with right now. I think this board is dedicated. We have been trying to not only think, we're tired of thanking our teachers. We've gotta do more than thank. We've got to do something to keep the ones that's been there and the ones that are coming, like you guys. We need you all to stay here. If you're committed to us, we better be committed to you. That means pay, insurance. We've been fighting hard. That's on our agenda. That's all we've been talking about behind the scenes. And that's what we're gonna be doing, is to try to get the key players involved, make the money there, keep you here. We don't want, once you get here, we want you to stay. So, we don't want you to go across the mountain or anywhere else. So we're gonna do everything we can to make that happen. The ones that have been here a long time to stay here. So it's all about our kids. Also the one that loses, So, but again, thanks for being here, and thanks for everybody for what they've done over the summer.
Mr. Buckman?
We want to first welcome the new teachers. Glad you guys are here. Look forward, hopefully, to have you guys having long careers here and being a part of this community. Kind of echo what everybody else said in their comments. I also want to thank the maintenance staffs that have been getting our schools ready for everybody to come back. I've seen a project or two that they've done. It's good work, and they do a lot of work over the summer to get ready for the high traffic and kids back in the building 5 days a week. That's music to my ears. But I just hope we have a really good year. As Mr. Pennington said, that we're probably going to have some things come up to us with no playbook, and we'll do our best. This board, that's one thing I'll say, is we work hard to fight through these things and figure out what we can do best for our staff, and educators, and students, and parents, and everything that we can do. So, thank you.
I think it's a pretty good summary. We'll add to something that Mark said. The compensation issue is certainly something that we have fought relentlessly to improve over all of our tenures on the board. That's something we don't intend to let up on. We will be getting the committee going again very shortly, once everybody gets in place and the new teachers. Real quickly, we've got a committee together made up of hopefully a broad brush of all of our employees. That includes the board of supervisors, some of us, and talking seriously about what it's going to take to get our teachers and employees up to par with the rest of the areas around here. So we're taking it seriously. We're going to be working with the board of supervisors who has the majority of the ability to generate money, and we're going to have a plan in place to let you have a good reason to stay here if you're new, and for existing teachers to know that we're fighting to get better pay. So that's something that's serious. You're gonna see actual actions coming out of that and not just talk every single year. And lastly, don't let your guard down. And you've heard us today talk about how we can make sure we find a way to run our schools and take care of our kids the way that we want to here in Giles County. The best way you continue to empower us to do that is to not get relaxed, stop washing hands, stop worrying about the virus, whether you believe in it or not. Once somebody outside of here thinks that we're in trouble, then they take the control out of our hands. So the best way for us to maintain our control is to stay healthy and show them that what we're doing is working. If you're doing that for us, then we're gonna fight to the death to show everybody we're not gonna send our kids home. We're not gonna go to virtual because what we're doing is working. And if the numbers are good, we're going to battle for you. And I think our health director will too. But if we mess around and we've got half the school out positive, we're losing our argument that what we're doing is working. So help us do that and keep washing hands, keep making sure people aren't on top of each other, they don't have to be, and give us the firepower we need to fight to keep you in the buildings. And that's all we got. Here to an awesome year. Not very many hard decisions for us. That would be lots of teaching, lots of teaching.
I'm gonna write that down. August 12th, Mr. Steele said, no tough decisions.
Lots of boring board meetings would be great.
I'd just like to reiterate as well, I want to thank all of our staff, the teachers that work during our summer extended program, SOAR, bus drivers, all the individuals that partook in the summer food delivery, loading the buses, getting the meals to the kids, et cetera. I mean, that's an awesome program. And for everybody just getting ready for the upcoming year, it's going to be nice to see our kids coming back into schools again for the upcoming school year. I also like to, I'll welcome you, our new staff, and thank you all for being here. This is not the official spiel, but we're going to stop here, the board meeting here when I'm done. Give you the opportunity. We have breakfast over here. I want to thank Horace Mann, Ben Jackson, and Missy Weddle. They're sponsoring breakfast this morning for us. Thank you all for sponsoring breakfast for us this morning for our new staff members. And also want to thank our lunch is being sponsored by Embrace Home Loans out of Blacksburg, so I want to thank them as well. So with that, I'll give the opportunity for you to close the meeting, and then we'll let you all mingle. Then I'll give the opportunity to them to introduce themselves.
Well,
Move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
a motion and a second, all those in favor? Adjourn.